big critical bonus points getting paid out at halfway home.
And those bonus points will likely play a big scenario. You see the maximum number of tire changes on your screen there. Of course, 100% fuel capacity. So likely, I would say, Evan, maybe a one-stop race. We'll see how that plays out. That's always a topic we have here in RSR. So, Evan, I'm going to put you on the hot seat and ask you, per RSR rules, does Agnell have to turn a lap in the race to earn points?
I think it's going to default to whatever the default iRacing scoring rule is. If his name shows up as a starter in the official iRacing results export, then he would get points towards this championship. We'll keep an eye to see. And he is on pit road now, so likely starting from the pit lane. His teammate Cody Harris has got a big night in front of him. Let's go racing at Homestead. Lap number one, and the first point scored of the day goes to Cody Harris. He leads over Peter Irons and Ross Cato. It's playoff cars first, second, and third. Meanwhile, Agnell Phillip fired off from the pit lane. He is going to come back down pit road, completing one lap and officially being scored as a competitor in this race, likely to finish dead last in P17 and try to make things doable on the points. Headed to Martinsville next week as the rest of the field at full speed now, 2 laps down.
I mean, that's a great call by Agnell if he's able to make that work to get those points. As you said, not a huge field here tonight, so even the last place points will pay well. I think it still locks him into a must-win. We'll wait and see how that plays out. But look at this here. Beautiful pack of racing on the track being led by Cody Harris, Evan. And with that track tip you pointed out, that 98 degrees Fahrenheit, that's going to lead to probably a very slick track through these corners. So as this run goes on, I'm expecting to see some loose race cars out of that corner.
And one thing that is so enjoyable about this Homestead Miami Speedway is you can do exactly what you're looking at right there. Ride the top and ride the bottom. That's the 44 of Lariah, way to the outside, who is on an absolute blitz. Started this race in P10, already up to second spot, looking for more. Can he get to the outside of Cody Harris? Not there through the center of the corner. How aggressive does this 28 want to get with the block? He'll go up, shut the door. Lariah crossing to the inside, and an early challenge for the race lead is no match. Michael Lariah, the 44 car, rockets to a lead only 5 laps in.
Now look at that, though. Look at Cody Harris got caught by Peter Irons under him. Cody's now going to give up 2 spots, it looks like, because there's now another car that's going to try to pass him. But nope, Harris is going to keep that spot there. But you're right. What an amazing run by Lariah. He thought he must have had to do it. Must have thought he had to get up there and race hard. He's in the last space in the playoff points. So he's trying to make a move here.
3 wide, back at about P5, I think that was. Middle of it all was Burke. Top side, Cato. Bottom side, Danson. That battle simmers down a touch. You can see the mid-pack still has plenty of fighting going on. And this entire pack still tightly condensed within about 2.5 seconds of each other as they run right now. Harris shook off a challenge from Irons, and now it's Harris P2, Irons P3. Sam Nieto also on the move. He goes from 8th to 4th. Matt Danson just stealing P5 right there from Berg. Danson up 4. So a lot of movers early in this race. Ross Cato, not one of them. Most of these passes at the expense of the 12 car. He started up in 3rd, and as Freenosh makes a move on the bottom, it's going to be 5 spots dropped for the 12 team.
Well, Evan, as much as Michael Lariah made the top look easy and made it work to his advantage somehow, Ross Cato is having a complete opposite experience. Ross Cato is falling back quick by not riding that bottom line. You got a whole line of cars in the bottom lane that are just running this smooth and well, and Cato's having a hard time keeping up there, so that's why he's falling back. But look at this here. This is your battle for the lead. This is Lariah, Harris, and Irons. Remember, Irons basically, in a way, Evan has the night off, and I mean, he still wants to race, still wants to have fun, and do what he can to build momentum, but he really is, to me, is in the best seat of the night because he's already locked in. He doesn't have to do a single thing, and he will be at Phoenix in the Final Four.
First thing he said when we talked to him in Victory Lane in Vegas a week ago was, now I can focus on Phoenix. I got a month to think about it. I'm sure Peter Irons is going to be a competitive race car here, just given the fact that he's driven at a lot of intermediate racetracks this year. But he is, I would imagine, have not put in a ton of practice for this racetrack in the last week. Again, just by skill, he'll be up in the mix, but wouldn't be surprised if he's put more laps in at Phoenix than he has at Homestead, and that championship race isn't until November the 4th. He's still in a competitive spot. That too is Sam Nieto again, making a couple of passes, also in a good spot. Remember, those playoff drivers, look for those red indicators on the race cars. That's the windshield banner. That's the spoilers and more on your timing and scoring. Look for those red highlights on that leaderboard. The playoff cars 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, or 6, 8, 9, I should say, as they run now. Again, notably, Agnell Phillip, bottom of the board. That car has officially retired from this race. Let's go on board with Nieto. It's Irons on the outside, and Danson lurking. Does the 38 go to the inside? Thought he'd go 3 wide, didn't do it. Looks topside. Irons makes the move.
And really, for Sam Nieto, this has got to be a pretty relaxing night compared to thought it was going to be. He came in tonight, Evan, tied with Agnell Phillip for that second spot in the playoff grid. So he already knows he's broken that tie. Now the question is, who else can or can't catch him? It would be Ross Cato, Burke, Gass, Harris, and Lariah he's got to worry himself about. But knowing that right now he's well ahead of the person he's tied with, it's got to be a bit of just a relaxing, big, deep breath kind of moment. And knowing that, that's settled itself out by whatever is going on with Agnell Phillip. Look at this 3 wide, though, with Homestead. My goodness. A track perfectly capable of doing it. But look, Nieto sort of backed out. He said, hey, listen, I'm good, thanks. I'll live to fight another day.
So far, it has been a story of the cars who struggled in Vegas. Lariah entered tonight last in the playoff standings. Harris, second to last. Those are your top 2 cars right now, and they're thankful that they're up ahead of this mess. Danson with that move is at a race high P3. He continues to be the highest running non-playoff driver in the field. Clear of the battle as Sam Nieto was making passes early. Now he's dealing with a windshield full of challengers with the 19 of Burke, the 1 of Irons, and even that 88 of Freenage. Not that far back either. 13 laps in here in Homestead. The 2 machine of Nieto, of course, in this championship as well, coming into tonight P2. You talk about that tie with Agnell Phillip in the running order there. Nieto would maybe not be on a lot of people's playoff grid ahead of the likes of Harris, ahead of the likes of Lariah. So yes, it is not good news for the 2 that those 2 cars are running up front. Only one of them could win, though. That would be a big shift. It would obviously shuffle everybody else down. But if you're Nieto, if you can beat P4, even if Cody Harris is finishing second position on you, he's only going to make up 2 spots, right? Even you count the bonus points in, they finish this way at halfway too. Okay, that's a 4-point swing. They're coming into tonight 16 points ahead of him. So Nieto can play defensive by having a good run, and it can mitigate just how beneficial these good runs are for some of these other drivers.
Yeah, and that's sort of the frustration for these playoff drivers. You're right, you hit the nail right on the head, is that I can have a great night, and because of how small this grid is, or just, how close we're all going to run together, a great night might only be 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 points at most. I'm the kind of person who doesn't believe in, rooting for carnage or rooting for damage or rooting for bad luck in others. I think that's a really poor karma to have on yourself. But in a way, you have to right now if you're maybe Cody Harris or, someone in the back of Michael Lariah, because you need to have a points gap somehow. You have to find it. And we'll see if that can happen. Look at it. Sam Nieto is doing a great job here. But look at this. This is Matt Danson up in P2. I'm going to throw one more scenario at you, Evan. What if a non-playoff driver wins tonight? What if it's Lariah and Harris P2 and 3 and Danson P1? That almost levels Agnell Phillip to Lariah and Harris. That would be a very interesting moment for the final for, deciding race, because they would only be a few points apart if a non-playoff driver wins tonight. It really throws a whole wrench into this whole program.
It really would, and I think that ties back in if it's a non-playoff car or if it's a playoff car that's not Cody Harris, for example, right? That's why he was immediately thinking, with Agnell not being able to contest this race, is I don't want to have to go into Martinsville also needing a win or also needing a really good night if Agnell needs the same thing, because Agnell Phillip can flip a switch. If you're Michael Lariah, right, you don't want to be in that position either. I don't know if it makes Lariah feel better, considering that he won that race in Martinsville a year ago, but that makes me feel worse if I'm Harris, right? If I'm Harris and I finish P3 and I get an okay result, that's fine. But if Michael Lariah is not already locked in and he's gunning for it at Martinsville, you've got a defending Martinsville winner. You've got the best driver from all season, double-digit wins at Agnell Phillip, both of them feeling like they need a win. That's not a good spot for Cody Harris to be in. So, yes, we talked about the wild card nature of some of the other rounds in these playoffs, right? The round of 16 with the road course race at Watkins Glen and the short track race at Bristol. Same thing with the round of 12, the super speedway in Dega, the road course in the Roval. Those were the wild cards due to the track setup. And while this round of 8 is the air quotes most normal round with Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville, this twist in the driver availability maybe very clearly, I think, makes this race the biggest of the season. And Matt Danson started 9th. He's chased down Michael Lariah, looking to the outside for the race lead after lap number 19.
Yeah, we've seen Matt win this season already, Evans. He's not a stranger to being up front. Just missed the playoffs due to that driver availability you talked about. Missed 2 of the 3 opening round races and could not get himself a win in that third race. So he unfortunately is out of the playoffs, but right now is out in front here at the lead at Homestead Miami Speedway and is now leading Lariah and Harris. I said this throws a big monkey wrench into everything. Now, I talked to Cody earlier, Cody Harris. He didn't sound stressed, Evan. He said, hey, listen, this is going to be fun. I think I'm good here. And I said, Cody, is this a must-win for you? He said, no, I like Martinsville. I'm good at it. I'm not that nervous. But then he talked about Agnell not being here or not racing, as the case may be, and, finishing last. So I agree with you. I think for teammates, Cody needs to get the job done tonight. This way they're both not trying to fight for the same equal spot next week. But here we are. Look at these transitional bankings, Evan. When I think about these corners of Martinsville's next week, Derek, get back to yourself at Homestead. These, to me, is really the first corners I can think of in NASCARs that had that sort of transitional banking that we all find familiar now. These corners were big news back in 2003 when they got introduced here at the track.
Of course, I mentioned this racetrack was a longtime host to the NASCAR season finale. Seems like the rumor mill is talking that might return at some point in the near future, and it is deservedly so. Look at the 44 car, a little bit either, couldn't tell if he got loose under the 38 or got tight by being squeezed, but whatever it was, the 44 got upset that time. Danson was giving him no room. Does that 28 at Harris go to the very inside, looking 3 wide almost in the battle for the lead early in this Homestead race. Look how tight these cars are still. 9 drivers separated at the front of the field by less than 1.5 seconds. Danson Euro steps under the 44 car, trying to get clear of Lariah, center of the corner, but that 44 is going to wind it up like a top on the outside, use that banking to his advantage, and blow past that 38.
Now here's the question in my mind as I'm watching all this happen and unfold. What is Cody Harris thinking? Right? Your teammate is currently in your mind possibly holding you up. He's possibly taking a spot you want on the racetrack. Now listen, we're not, other leagues. We're not, F1 racing, if you will. We're not team motors. But it does pop in your mind. Hey, listen, you're a teammate and, you're in my way. I'm racing for, a playoff spot here. I need you to move. Could be things that are happening. Now, those guys are in a Discord call together. I'm sure it's very cordial down there, but that can be stressful if you have one teammate who you think is kind of blocking your way to your path to success.
It is the pros and the cons of these bigger teammates. Obviously, all these drivers very familiar with each other, having competed here on Monday nights for so long. Most of them, I would say, pretty friendly as well, right? But it gets real serious when you get down to round number 28 of the championship. Then maybe get felt a little bit earlier, because all those spots mean a whole lot more, and it's hard to feel good for some of the other guys. You might like them, might be friends with them, might even be teammates with them, but somebody else's success at this point in the season is to your detriment. That was not the case, obviously, in the regular season for the most part, not even in the round of 16, right? Early in these playoffs, we're talking about just get a top 10 every week. You'll be fine. You get to the round of 8, it is very much head-to-head. He benefits, I lose, and that is the mentality, I think, that a lot of these drivers are carrying into this one. So we've seen 3 different drivers lead laps in this race. Michael Laraya now back in front. He has led more than anybody else after he took the lead from Cody Harris. Danson swiped it back for a few laps. And now back to the status quo. Laraya, Danson, Harris, first, second, and third. Can Peter Irons join that conversation? It's always fun looking for the one car, because there is no number 1 on the doors of that machine. He's 4th in line. Could he be next to take a crack?
Yeah, right on board with him now, and take a look and see that line he's running. It's a little lower into the corner than what Cody Harris is running. Is trying to be a little different and look at the way he tracks out. That's what I like more about his line than Cody's, is how comfortable Peter Irons is in that car, that he tracks it way out sooner and gets some more speed. Now he's going to try the high line on Cody Harris and see if he can make that work. He'll now get a bit of a small bit of draft off of that car in front of him, see if he can get a line here off of the corner. And like I said, they're trying to run down Michael Laraya. Look at this. We're already 20-plus laps into this race, Evan. Very clean so far. No drama. Not even any really contact I've seen for the most part. Some 3-wide racing, but despite how close it's been, no dust-up so far.
And sometimes we'll be, air quotes, clean and green, as I like to say, right, for 30 laps, 40 laps, but there'll be moments, right? And we haven't really had moments. I mean, we talked about Agnew Phillip. We anticipated a start and park. That's what we saw. Mike Maddox also is down on pit road. But other than that, there's no major red flags for anybody else on the racetrack. No big scares. Nobody slapping the wall. Nothing crazy to this point. I don't, hesitant to use the word calm, because they've been 3 wide for the race lead on multiple occasions. But right now, the guys are just able to race it out amongst themselves as a group and haven't had any other problems. Of course, Irons up to 3rd now, ahead of Harris. Is that one car on the charge? First thing I think of any time I see somebody do what Laraya did and, jump from 10th to 1st in 4 or 5 laps or whatever it was, is are you, tearing up your tires too early? Are you cooking them and overworking them, and is that going to hurt you on the long run? Peter Irons lost spots early in this race, right? Started P2, fell down to 4th, 5th, maybe even a little lower at a moment. But that would tell me that he was saving for the long run. And with these smaller car counts, we have expected these races to have longer green flag runs like this. And I think the one car now reaping the benefits of that patient.
Yeah, I was watching over this a little bit before you brought the topic. I was kind of surprised, happily so, how these cars are handling. Here we are, 30 plus laps in now, and these cars are behaving pretty well in the corners, Evan. And maybe it's because the track is starting to cool off a little bit already, or, whatever reason. But sometimes in these setups, you'll see these cars really get loose in the back end, sort of want to fly around through the corners. But these drivers are doing a great job at managing these tires. But I agree with you. Michael Laraya probably burnt up some equipment getting up there. And, of course, we're only about 10 to 15 laps from that mathematical 3rd way through the race, to where if you are a driver who wants to try the old 2-stop play, that's going to be your key right there, is to stop about that 3rd marker and see what it looks like. Now, it feels like every race, Evan, there's 1 or 2 drivers who wants to try it out. And I guess now we're going to find out if that's the case tonight, or if everyone's going to be committed to the one stopper here at Homestead Miami Speedway.
I feel like this race distance may be, more in the realm as you watch this battle for 7th to maybe give that 2-stop strategy a bit of life. As, there's the issue just ahead of this battle on the back straightaway. You'll see dropping down the leaderboard on your timing and scoring there was Peter Irons. I mentioned there had been no big moments, and that was one right there. Is Irons either got loose and then was hit by Danson, or got loose because he was hit by Danson. That was in the ongoing battle for 2nd place on back. Nearly a wreck. They're going to be okay, but that'll get your heart race up and goes to show you just how quickly things can turn.
Yeah, that'll wake you up, won't it? If your Peter Irons, it'll kind of get back in the race here. So we'll take a look, wait for the race spot replay machine to spool up here, and you're going to see some contact, as Evan said, between Peter Irons and Matt Danson. The question is, which came first? You know, the old chicken or the egg. Was it the getting loose and then hitting Matt Danson, or was Matt Danson's hit what caused the looseness in the car?
They're side by side right now, so clearly no hard feelings, or I feel like a message would have been delivered. Here's the on-board look with Iron, slides up in front of Danson. It was kind of one of those bang-bang plays. Ty goes to the runner, maybe. I mean, it looked like certainly that one was essentially putting a slide job on Danson, right? You know when you're on the bottom, you're not going to carry the speed off of the corner. He pulled up right in front of him. Matt Danson could have lifted. Matt Danson decided, if you're going to pull up and basically park the bus in front of me, I'm not going to lift. And Irons took the shot, but again, those are two of the very best in this series, and nobody retaliated immediately. Seems like they're going to be able to continue on fine, and they continue to run in third and fourth position right now. Freenotch joining the fray. He's the old black 88 Ford on the inside, as we're inside of 100 laps to go in this race.
Minnesota, a bunch of side-by-side racing. Look at this here. This is now going to be Peter Irons racing here and trying now to hold the top lane. And I agree. I think when Irons came up, he just scrubbed some speed off of that car from moving up. And then he got hit in the back. There was a car with smoke in the back of that shot, Evan. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. I missed the source of the smoke, but all seems good for now. But now, you know, earlier you and I used the words clean and green, said, hey, we really are. When the last 3, 4, 5 laps, it's got a little touchy-feely here lately.
One looked very similar to the Irons contact with Danson, just location on the racetrack. The 19 machine of Burke got loose and then was hit. Danson nearly spun the car out the last time off of turn number 4. This time he's in pit road, but Danson, maybe with an unscheduled stop, that car stopping short of the pit box, maybe Danson's night going to come to an early end after he made a very late dive to pit road. And I don't know what happened with the 38 car, but Matt Danson is appearing to bring that car behind the wall, so Danson's night may be done in the blink of an eye just like that. That betters the odds for some of these playoff drivers, Lariah Harris and Irons in particular, who are in search of that golden ticket to the championship 4, because Danson looked like a serious threat to play spoiler, and even if Danson gets back out onto the racetrack, not going to matter because he's going to be multiple laps down. Again, pretty normal pit road entry, but then just kind of pulled over to the left-hand side and had to toe into the box. So clearly something outside of race strategy in this one that's going to take Danson out of it, and again, improve the likelihood that we see a playoff car win this race.
That makes me feel like there was something, quote-unquote, outside of sim that's affecting Matt Danson, whether it be a hardware issue or, you know, something in real life that happened. Because the only thing that could happen, I would think, that would cause the concern for Matt Danson would have been that contact. But that contact in the realm of iRacing, Evan, is not hard enough to do enough damage to your front bumper to maybe cause overheating that quick or something of that nature, which you might see in real life. So, you know, for Matt to have already disconnected and call it a night, I think there's something, quote-unquote, external that's causing the concern there. And unfortunately for him, that, I mean, for a lot of drivers who want to see a non-playoff driver win a race here, that was probably, at least right now, your best shot. That was maybe the best shot you had all night here. And now the battle's back on again. Look at this. Cody Harris wants to get the lead back, Evan. Top and bottom. You talked about this double lanes at Homestead can be run, and they're proving that right now.
Since the drop of the green flag, they have been working high and they have been working low. Outside right there is what Michael Lariah is trying to use to hold off Cody Harris in this battle for the race lead. Worth noting that if drivers are going to look for a two-stop strategy, we are closing in on decision time for those drivers to come to pit road. So far, nobody in for scheduled service. Two-car battle for the race lead up top. Two-car battle down for the number 8 spot. Bottom of your screen, with the red number 24, Davis, the green number 82, Minazzi Major. The cars in that second fight.
Yeah, Yeah, and a great opportunity to see both fights happening here, top and bottom here. That top screen is the battle for the lead, and these guys right now, they're doing a great job at battling here, and I'm kind of surprised in a way, Evan, that they're not letting Peter Irons more into that race. Sometimes when you get two cars like this that race side by side, those two cars can hold one another up, but because of the multiple lanes at Homestead, they both kind of get to race their own lane here and come back together on the back straight. But see, there's Peter Irons. I saw Andrew Freenosh in the back of that shot. The more that Harris and Lariah fight side by side, this could quickly become a 4-car battle and not a 2-car battle.
Yeah, they're going to slow each other down every time they line up into the corner. Even though, yes, they look like they're running so far apart in the turn, just them being side by side means, especially for Cody Harris on the bottom of the racetrack, that he can't get that full arc down into the corner like he would otherwise want. And that's the tricky thing for him, and that's why I think Lariah continues to come out with the upper hand on the outside of the racetrack. It is going to be 1/3 distance this time by. Do we see any takers? There's at least one car. It's Jaron Weinmaster on a pit road. Last time by the stripe, the number 9 Chevrolet was scored in P11. Again, why not, right? Jaron, not a driver in the playoffs at this point. Off maybe cycle with the race leaders. What's to lose? By coming into pit road, he's going to have some company. Looks like Austin Coop lights up in orange on the leaderboard. The 53 car also down pit road and committing, we think, to the 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, and I like what you said. You're exactly right. Why not do it? These guys are out here to do one thing, which is win. That's all these guys care about right now. They're not in the playoffs, so why not come out here and win? Why not spoil it? And sometimes you have to be different. You have to take a swing at things and see what sticks. And hey, if it doesn't work, what are you really losing? Which the answer is not a whole lot in this moment. But Evan, as I watch this track go by, think about for Homestead Miami, this is really our 3rd iteration of this track. This track's only been open for less than almost 40 years. Opened in 96, I believe, was the first year of the track. Maybe a little sooner than that, maybe 93, in that mid-90s era. But remember, this thing started as like a mini Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This thing started as a 4-corner rectangle and now has evolved into this very fun banked speedway.
Yeah, that 1997 major reconfiguration changed it up a bit, but then they continued to do more work on it, and that's how this racetrack got that variable banking, which peaks at 20 degrees of banking at the top of the corners, and it is just a touch of 3 degrees on the front stretch. But everybody, I think unanimously, if it's stock cars, if it's Indy cars, there's a pretty robust road course here at Homestead, Miami that I've done some racing in as well, and some Ford Mustangs on the service as well. It's you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who talks negatively about this racetrack, and if they do, they're just wrong. Watching a battle for 3rd as Peter Irons and Andrew Freenosh going at it. I did say that it would dance it out of the race. It certainly increases the chance of a playoff driver winning this. Well, Andrew Freenosh can always flip the switch. Has not had a season to remember, but he's a 4-time series champion and can never be discounted. And he is within 3/4 of a second of the race leaders 50 laps into this one.
Yeah, Andrew is a 4-time series champion, as I said, a well-known driver, well-respected in the community. And so he's now trying to make his mark here. He's going to get to the bottom lane here below Peter Irons. And Andrew, another driver who's had his heart broke earlier in the playoffs. But Evan, Andrew has a lot of success here at Homestead.
If you want to look at the opposite of some heartbreak moments for Andrew Freenosh, well, he has seen a lot of good at this Homestead Miami Speedway in specific. I mentioned a 4-time series champ. Let's go through the vault this week to 2018 here at Homestead, when Andrew Freenosh would capture his first career RSR Full Throttle Cup Series Championship, which would kick off a string of 4 straight titles, winning in 2018, 19, 20, and 21, becoming not only just the first repeat champ ever in the series history that spans way back to 2012, but of course, that number 4 we know will never be matched. Philip going to try to get close and do 3 this year, but there was a point in time where Andrew Freenosh might have well had his name on the deed to this place, because that's how consistent and how often he was in victory lane here.
Yeah, finale race, Evan. For the viewers, it was quintessential, a fun race. You got to kick back, order some Domino's, to have a great time, watch the race, and you see Andrew Freenach just dominate time and time again. And really, it comes back to that talk you had earlier about, this track used to be the finale race. This track used to host the finale every year, and maybe it will come back, maybe it won't. There's a lot of opinions about Phoenix being the finale race in the NASCAR schedule, and I don't know where you come down on it, Evan. I kind of want the finale to rotate year by year, almost like an NBA playoff or an MLB playoff, but I understand that the number of tracks that can host a race in early November without weather concerns is pretty limited.
And I've, having lived out west, been able to go to that Phoenix finale 3 times. It's a beautiful facility, right? I think it's understandable why NASCAR moved it there. They invested a lot of money into that racetrack. It's great from a fan perspective. I think maybe if these cars raced better on short tracks, right, this next-gen car, that type of racetrack is kind of its leading problem in the real world. Then maybe I think people's opinions feel a little bit better about Phoenix. I think Phoenix is hurt by the fact that these cars in real life are not that good at short tracks right now, and Homestead may stand to benefit. Again, there's rumors that it's not a playoff race next year for the purpose of getting the race out of the way early, having about a year and a half of time to get renovations done to maybe get it back and be a championship site for 26. I would certainly not complain, because that would make it about 3,000 miles closer to me than Phoenix nowadays to go to the championship race. But it is a fantastic facility nonetheless. And again, on the service, you're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody talk about this racetrack, no matter what discipline of racing they participate in. This ongoing battle is for P2 and 3. We did see another car come down pit road. That was Eric Papineau who came in. So we've seen Papineau, Burke, and Coop come down pit road. We're still outside of the window to be talking about one-stoppers, but bonus points as well at that midway break about 13 laps away. That's kind of the next milestone in this race.
Yeah, so right now, if you're still on track, you're committed to that. You're committed to making it to halfway and then finding out what happens. When do you want to pit? How far do you want to push it? Yada, 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 right? But right now, Michael O'Reilly is your leader. He's leading Cody Harris. He's leading Andrew Freenach, Peter Irons, Sam Nieto. That's your top 5 here. And man, I mean, kudos to Cody Harris, Evan. He is working all night long. There's not a lap that he's had off, quote unquote. He's been up there on a bumper, leading, competitive all night long. There's a single lap that Cody Harris hasn't been trying his hardest to be successful here.
This battle for P2 becomes the storyline. You'd think maybe Lariah would be able to run away, but again, these cars are just so even on pace. Look at those 1, 2, 3, 4. Lariah not getting away at all. I mean, this battle between Harris and Freenach doesn't seem to be hurting either of them. Look at all the wheel that Cody Harris is putting in, though. A perfect corner would be one turn in, and then you slowly unwind the wheel as you come off the corner and press the throttle, but the tape on the middle point of his wheel gives you a great perspective of how much wheel he's given it. Even down here in 1 and 2, look how much time in the turn he's actually spending with that wheel turn to the right.
Yeah, look at how much wheel movement there is in that wheel too. And it's not exactly uncommon, but it can look drastic from that camera angle. See how much it kind of seesaws back and forth. And that tells you that it's not fully a smooth ride. It also tells you, Evan, that something I think we forget about when we watch races, either in sim or in the real world. There's this idea we get baked in our heads that these are smooth, perfect, calm racetracks that, are very, just easy to race on. These things are abrasive. They're bumpy. There's, rocks out there. There's pieces of rubber out there from the tires. Almost no racetrack is smooth as we want to think it is. That's why it's hard sometimes to find a line that works. You hit a line that works here and you hit one small bump and this car wants to go crazy on you.
I could just sit here and listen to the sound of the cars and watch one driver go through the corner on the bottom and the other driver go through on the fence and then come out right next to each other. I could just watch that for an hour and a half if we had kind of like the old, what's the NFL cam, the old 22 cam or something like that, right? The high shot where you see the play develop. I could just watch this from a fixed camera on the roof on the front stretch, lap after lap after lap. Small difference, I'll say, between the top 3 now and Peter Irons. We are getting late in this run, and Irons is dropping back a touch compared to the leaders. Not going to, hit the red flag yet and, throw up cause for concern if you're in the Irons camp, but a visible gap starting to form. We haven't seen the one car drop that far off in a while, so just something to keep an eye on, as these tires are about as worn out as they're going to get at any point in this race. Halfway is lap 67. Those points are paid out at the conclusion of lap number 67, so I would expect drivers to be headed to pit road on 68, although sometimes there's always at least a car who short pits it and mixes it up.
Yeah. You talked about Peter Irons falling back. In a way, with all due respect, the one I'm really surprised by, Evan, you made a comment earlier about 40 laps ago how Michael Laraya charged through this field. He went about 8 spots at one point. I think he's currently up plus 9 right now in the lead. So he really moved very fast off the start of this race. If anyone was going to fall back, I think reasonable expectations would have said it was going to be Michael Laraya. Typically, when a driver charges that quickly, that far forward, they did it by being aggressive, but Laraya is doing a great job. I mean, if you look at their lap times, and we'll wait till they get to the line here to look at it, but they're not drastically different. Let's take a look here. I mean, Laraya at 34.6, Freenosh at 34.5, Cody Harris at 34.6, and we got to pass the lead as Andrew Freenosh now has passed both these drivers and is now in control of this race.
With the nose in front, still in search of his first lap lead of the day. The bonus point for leading a lap means a lot less to Freenosh than it does to Laraya and Harris, who are technically the only point scorers in this race from the playoffs, having led a lap. Laraya also a spot to get the most laps led. That would be big for him because that would carry an additional bonus point. That time at the stripe, the advantage still to Laraya by 5/1000ths of a second. But Andrew Freenosh doing everything he can to mix up this championship battle, and what a race we would be in store for at Martinsville in a week's time if Laraya wasn't locked in, Harris wasn't locked in, and Aguinaldo Phillip wasn't locked in, and they'd be fighting for, yes, theoretically 3 spots, but a couple of those names may be in must-win situations. 4 laps to go till we go halfway. Again, you could get as much of a 4-point swing, right? 10 points for first, 7 points for fourth, depending on where you finish in this for the playoff cars. And this 19 car, Bradley Burke from a lap down now, ends up in the picture. Remember, he's on that 2-stop strategy. He's faster. He's going to get by these cars. And in doing so, now that 88 of Freenosh is clear for the race lead for the first time tonight.
And better news for this car right here, for Burke right here, by the way, is now when he's unlapped himself. He's now on the lead lap and kind of gets to feel competitive here. And now with open track ahead of him, he'll likely pull away from these drivers. So he did that very well, but also at a spot where he gave Andrew Freenosh the lead. And Freenosh now has led a lap here, Evan. So that's great news for him. And man, we are just quickly running down this race, and it's not a lot of passing, maybe as much as we might want, but a lot of strategy is playing out.
Final count on those cars who are going for the 2-stopper ends up at 3, I think, for cars that are actively still on the racetrack. And big moments here. Again, can Cody Harris snag 1 extra point if he could just... Doesn't even need a clear Freenosh. You just need a nose in front at the stripe. That's when these points get paid out. And yes, normally if you had 40 cars, bonus points to the top 10 would still be a talking point, but it would not be a race-defining talking point. If you can maximize points at this halfway bonus, it may make up for whatever your position difference is in the actual race results. And here's a big call. Laraya pitting before the bonus points will cash in.
That's... tells me that I don't know. He must have thought he couldn't make it. Why would you pit a lap early? You're going to give up a bunch of points there, right there, by doing that. Wow.
He's led a lot of laps tonight. Could he possibly have burned more fuel than some of the other drivers and been unable to make it? Points at the stripe this time. Is anybody going to be collecting their points from the pit lane? Cody Harris thought he was slowing. He's not going to. It'll be Andrew Freenosh who leads it halfway, but big point scores for Harris P2, Nieto P4, Cato 5. Gas to pit road. May give up 6th. We'll have to wait to see where those cars cycle through because so many of them have been on and off of pit road, and I would expect the leaders in this time then.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what I do cycle out before I get those final numbers. But, I mean, Lariah likely somewhere between P6 and P8, depending upon the cycle of it. And that's a good number of points to hand out for someone who really needs every point possible tonight. So I just wonder if Lariah, as we saw it, was burning up too much stuff and burned up too much gas and couldn't make it, or miscounted. I don't know, but that's a big, big moment right there that we may be talking about in 1 week's time if Michael Lariah doesn't make the points here. But here's some more pitters. Evan, Andrew Freenot's going to come down. I suspect maybe Cody Harris will follow. We've not heard that confirmation yet.
And just for the note, Michael Lariah, before he decided to pit, was in 3rd. That would have scored him 8 bonus points. Instead, he was 9th at the halfway point. He will score 2. So that is a 6-point swing that could be massive for Lariah as Freenot is in, Harris is in, Cato is in. That means that Sam Nieto stays out. He'll get a bonus point for his first lap led.
And that's big news for Sam Nieto, who came into tonight tied in points. Towards the top there in P2, so another great moment for him to help lock his way in, if he can, into the playoff scenario. Well, Evan, now we're more than halfway through. I think a lot of drivers now figured this track out. The track's going to be in the cool-off track, and now down to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. So as this track gets cooler, there'll be more grip for the rest of this race.
Yeah, we'll see if those numbers continue to drop and to benefit them at all as you follow Sam Nieto now down pit road, blocked by all the pit stalls and satellite dishes, but he's down there, promise. He's the last car who has to come down and pit in this race, and that will cycle Bradley Burke through to the race lead. Remember, Burke pitted 21 laps ago, Coop pitted 26 laps ago. And then Papanow midfield also on a 2-stop strategy. So those cars get the benefit now. They will still have to pit. They cannot make it to the end of this race. So then you start talking net leader, and that would be the battle for 3rd at the moment. Your net leader of the cars who are on the 1-stop strategy is the 44 of Lariah. Now, he gives up 6 bonus points, right, by coming down pit road early. The argument could be made that it's worth giving up some points, Derek, in order to score some points. I will say he was in 3rd. The difference between 3rd and a win is 6 points, and he gave up 6 points by pitting halfway. So even if Lariah wins this race, he gains exactly what he threw away. I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, and that win still far from guaranteed because here comes Freenot on the bottom, and Andrew's got 3-lap better tires.
Well, you could argue if he wins tonight, I mean, he gains more than 6 points because he gains a guaranteed spot in the final 4. But that pitting a lap early makes me nervous, Evan. I don't know why, but it just makes me curious what wasn't doable. You know, was he really out of gas? Could he not make the extra lap? And if so, what does that say for the end of the race? Does that mean he has to be more conservative? I think if we start to see him using more draft through the back straight and the front straight, you know, following more cars or what have you, we'll know that maybe gas was a concern, or I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. Maybe he thinks that winning is more important than those points, but that's such a hard thing to comprehend. You know, when we talk about points all night long, maybe I just have that sort of that bias of what's in our head because we talk about it all night, but you'd have to get like a crowbar and a tank to prime you off the track with 1 lap to go to get those bonus points.
We'll see if it ends up being a difference maker in the end. At halfway, your top 10 were Freenot, Harris, Irons, Nieto, and Cato. Major, Gas, Burke, Lariah, Davis. Again, Freenot will cash the 10. Davis cashes the 1. It's 1 point difference throughout the leaderboard from that point on. Next milestone in this race would be waiting for Burke and Austin Coop to come to the pit lane. The interesting thing with this 2-stop strategy is I feel like this used to work a lot more with the old cars, and it probably doesn't have an actual effect on fuel strategy. It just feels like it's been a while since I've seen a really good 2-stop strategy kind of get the field. But even if, I always use the example, even if we just gave those guys more fuel and Burke and Coop could go the distance, they're still going to get passed by the one-stoppers just based on pace alone. Now, of course, their hope is you come down pit road, you get better tires. Those better tires makes up the difference, but you're looking at about 40 seconds, 37 to 40 seconds on pit road total time. That doesn't include the time lost by slowing down, the time, that you need to get up to speed. So you're not, I don't think, far enough ahead to validate throwing away 45 seconds for a pit stop and then catching them again. Now, again, I'm not the driver, I'm not the crew chief. That's for a reason, but it just feels like it's been a while since I've seen that call work.
I think it's not so much the cars, Evan. I think it's the number of cars on track. I think in order for that strategy to work, you need more traffic in the way. You need more traffic to hold up the net leader. You need more traffic to really make this work. And hold on, we got a moment here. There is a moment right here between Sam Nieto and Brandon Gass, and Nieto is not happy. I'm not going to repeat what Nieto said out of respect to Sam, but to say he is not happy. He wants Gass out of the way, and he's made it clear.
Nieto and Gass, both playoff cars, both on the same strategy. I'm not sure what the incentive for the 20 car would be to just pull over, but Sam has had a better night thus far. He's led laps. Gass has not. Nieto's been in the conversation up front. Gass has not. And I mentioned, you get late in the year, you get a little bit more agitated with each other. Every single spot means a little bit more, and they're just kind of jarring at each other on the radio. Unless I missed something, Derek, I didn't see any sort of egregious block. That 20 car certainly giving him the Ryan Newman treatment and just getting in the way, but if you're Brandon Gass, that's kind of what you should be doing.
Wow, listen, when you're the driver, like in Sam Nieto's spot, we're all guilty of this as drivers. You take everything a little bit more personal inside the car. You get that helmet vision, and you start to think that everything is personal, and whether it is or it isn't, that's just how we feel as drivers. Every block, every move, every corner, every pass, anything that happens on the track feels personal for some reason. It feels like it's an attack on us, right? And it's hard to get that out of your head. And that's how Sam felt. He felt, honestly, he told Brandon, he said, there's no reason to be blocking me like you are. And I agree with you from this point of view up top, Evan. I don't see the block. But hey, listen, when you're the one that's sitting there in front of the monitor, you're the one with the virtual race helmet on, sometimes your view of the race and our view of the race can be a little different.
So Nieto has the spot, you would expect now. Again, he did have a slight tire advantage between those two, just given the pit cycle. You would expect the 2 car to be able to pull away, especially if you're telling the other car to get out of the way to let you by. We'll see if Brandon Gass can hang in there. Cato just behind them as well. All 3 of these cars all pitted at about the same time. That battle will continue on. Up front, Bradley Burke, remember, leader on the 2-stop strategy, has to come back down to pit road still in this race, is being caught by P2 runner Andrew Freenosh, who does not need to come back down pit road. Burke, 31 laps into this stint, would likely go maybe, let's say, another 7-8 laps or so. Lap number 90 would be kind of the benchmark for when you want to come down pit road. That would be his presumed second and final pit stop, and it is a bit of a gamble strategy-wise for this decision to be made if you're Bradley Burke, because you were a P6 car in qualifying. You look back to before he made that pit stop, that car was running down in 10th though. So maybe felt like that a poor running position forced his hand a little bit. Burke came into tonight only 4 points below the cut. And if this strategy goes way wrong for him, it's going to be more.
Well, the hope for Bradley Burke right now at this point, Evan, we're about, let's see, I was trying to get a number here. We're a good number of laps. We're 10, 11, 12 laps into the run for the guys who are already taken tires. So if you're Bradley Burke, what you're now hoping for is something happens that brings out a yellow and everyone pits together, and then he is effectively the net leader because he'll get to probably enter and leave pit road as the lead. So then when that little dust-up happens between Sam Nieto and Brandon Gass, there was no one more hopeful for a dust-up than Burke. He's, yes, please do it. Don't get in trouble. But, hey, if you want to put a yellow out, Bradley Burke wasn't going to complain.
And you could also go to the extreme end. Burke's ideal pit stop for his strategy would be different than his fuel number, right? He could go way further but you just be running laps on older tires, do you kind of sell out and try to catch a yellow? I don't think that's an advisable call with the small field. I think he likely stays on it. But sometimes you'll see drivers on that two-stop strategy stay out, sell out, try to get a yellow, and hope to get back on cycle because of that. But with 51 laps to go, Andrew Freenach clear on the inside. He will go back to the race lead, and it'll really be his first chance to just log laps and lead up front. He got those couple of laps led earlier in the midst of the run-up to the pit cycle, and Freenach will assume a race lead with about a 0.6 of a second advantage, and the chance of a non-playoff spoiler is still alive here in Dade County.
And the good news for Andrew Freenach right now, with Bradley Burke on those older tires, he's at least going to temporarily hold up, but not for long, Cody Harris on Michael Larias. So you see that little bit of gap there on the track. That's good news for Andrew Freenach. It's more gap they have to make up here. We'll see if they can do that here. Now we're at the point where the laps are ticking down on the top of the scoring pylon on the left side of your screen, Evan. And trust me, as a driver, they know that as well. Now they're starting to count down the laps, and they're starting to say, hey, let me track the pace of said driver and see how that's going lap by lap. Now, you and I talked about the history of the track. You know, it's been a NASCAR finale track, and really, it's almost remiss, Evan, if you and I don't mention, this was the site of the first... What I know, well, I guess maybe the second. You were a part of one of the first broadcasted iRacing races on TV, but this was the first pro invitational track that Fox hosted a couple years ago during the COVID era, where we got some drivers sit down in front of sim rigs and race live on national TV.
Hey, that race got a cool 900,000 viewers, the start of the revamped Pro Invitational Series. You mentioned the one year we had the Coke Series finale live on NBCSN from this racetrack. So this racetrack has hosted all kinds of major milestone events in the iRacing service as well. And again, to that I say there may be no track better deserving of that than this one. Again, it's just quintessential NASCAR. Is a progressively banked 1.5 mile oval where you can put the car anywhere, and the drivers' driving preferences, their strategy, their decision making is going to be the primary difference in terms of if you win or if you lose the race. Especially you talk sim-wise in a series like this Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series where we run fixed setups. Again, that's a pretty well-known fact if you tune in with us all season or have been a long-time viewer. You know, if you're unfamiliar with the term, essentially, if it's an open setup race, drivers can do whatever they want to the cars, right? They can change the setups, tweak them to their liking. That will give a huge boost to the drivers who are part of big professional teams. Certainly those teams that compete in the NASCAR Road to Pro ladder have really good setups. This setup, or this series, I should say, using fixed setups means that you cannot change the cars. All the cars are even. This thing comes down to 110% all driver.
And that's even more valid because of this track. And that's why I think you keep coming back to that word quintessential NASCAR. You and I have documented all night long. There are multiple grooves here. There are multiple lanes here. There's plenty of passing opportunities. There are some tracks that are very fun NASCAR tracks over time, so you see a pass happening here on the bottom. But there are plenty of tracks that are fun to watch, but maybe they're not as great for a driver. They're not a driver's track. It's really about, you know, moving someone out of the lane you want to be in. Here, you can work the top, you can work the bottom. Maybe not so advised. You can kind of work the middle. You can pass, you can draft. You don't have to move someone here. You don't have to be aggressive here. So it really shows more of that craftsmanship of being a driver and puts the driver in control of this race, not so much the aggression is in control of this race.
So we've seen Austin Coop come down to pit road, just waiting on Bradley Burke and Eric Papineau to come in, and then that will complete the pit cycle, and everybody will be good to go the distance in this Homestead 200. Could it be a green flag race full distance to decide if we get another driver locked into the championship 4, or if there's going to still be 3 spots on the line in a week's time? One of those cars slow on the front straightaway. That is that 19 car of Bradley Burke. Did he miss pit road, or did that car just get loosed because he's on old tires? He was so slow, I think he might have missed it.
Yeah, I'll wait and see if we can find out here. And I do believe he missed pit road. I think you're right that he missed pit road, wasn't able to get the car wheeled up in time. And now is going to have to suffer, and that's really going to put him way behind. He now definitely needs a caution for this to happen. Let's see if we can find a replay of it here. We'll pull it up here as our producers are quickly searching to find that moment. But it's weird. I say he missed it, Evan, but based upon the speed he's going to carry when you see this replay in a second, missing it may not even be the best word, because it wasn't like he missed it by a couple miles an hour. I mean, he really just like blew right by it. Let's watch it here.
That's way too late to be remotely close. And I mentioned that I haven't seen a good two-stop strategy, work in a while. I've probably seen more cars shish kebab themselves on that pit lane entry wall than I have in the last 2 years somebody make a two-stop strategy work. I mean, this is a sneaky, tricky pit road, because you're not using that access road through the inside of 3 and 4 in like you do out through 1 and 2. You got to get on the binders, on the banking, and that pit road wall comes up quick. I know, Derek, if you get rid of the wall, right, it doesn't change where the pit road entry is. I get it. But it just feels tighter. Like it just makes it feel like you got less of a margin for error, when in reality, if you're going to hit the wall, you're going to miss pit road anyways. But it's just the vibe you get. It's much more intimidating when you're steering those barrels down.
There's a difference between hitting a wall and hitting a line. One of them will end your race on a penalty, and one of them will just end your car. So, small difference there, but you're right. I mean, that angle of entry is so difficult. But I don't know if maybe he got caught up in a conversation with his flat-out teammates and just maybe forgot you're supposed to pit. That happens more than you think it does sometimes. You kind of get caught up in a conversation, or you just kind of lose track, maybe your music one in your ears or whatever you have. And that, as you said, that was not even close. That wasn't, he was a couple miles an hour and didn't want to eat a black flag. That was, he was going to literally probably wreck that car had he put it on pit road. But now where he stands now, he needs a caution to be relevant in this race. He's now a lap down. He's now behind DeAndre Kane and Austin Coop, running in P12. So we'll wait and see what happens. But let's look at the battle up front. Look at this, Andrew Frenash and Cody Harris. And Cody Harris is all over the back end of Frenash. He's kind of just being a menace, staying in that mirror, staying relevant, staying obvious. He's not touching Andrew Frenash, but man, trying to see if he can make something happen. But when you talk about a 4-time champion, it's hard to believe you're going to menace Andrew Frenash.
Yeah, it's a tough call to be able to do that, but remember, Frenash cycled due to the race lead at first. Harris pitted on the same lap as him, so this 28 car has reeled him in on this run, not because of a slight tire advantage, just because he's been the better car. They've got to be careful there, because that lap machine behind them in Eric Papanow's got fresh tires. He's trying to get around without being in interference, but a battle for the race lead is on the inside. This could be deciding factor in who wins this one. Harris can't stick it on the bottom. Now Papanow's got to run, but again, backs out. The 17 timid, trying to stay out of the way and let these two fight, despite the fact that he's way faster. He'll have to get by eventually.
And one of the things that happens in sim racing, maybe more than real life racing, Evan, is a lot of times when cars are timid, like Eric Papanow's being, somehow they end up in the way. Because you're so timid, you're trying not to be in the way, you kind of end up in the way. The best thing for Eric Papanow here, in all honesty, is to just mash the pedal and get around these guys and get out of the way. But the more he tries to be timid and get side by side with Cody Harris, or he gets behind Andrew Frenash, it increases the likelihood of an oopsie. It increases the likelihood of an accident happening here and something bad happening at the front of this race. So you see Papanow's is now got the top lane. He's now going to run it, and there he is, passing by Frenash. And finally he's clear, and he's back to just being one lap down.
So he unlaps himself, or gets that position back by getting around the race leaders. The benefit for him is, again, he is now only one lap down. Of course, still in a position where if there was a yellow, he'd have to stay out to get back to the lead lap. But one lap is better to fight back from than 2 laps down. And now, can we return to the regularly scheduled programming? Can Cody Harris get back up there to Andrew Frenash? Not that long ago either, it felt like that some of these other drivers were a lot closer. Michael Araya, guys, came down pit road 2 laps ago. So Araya, this goes back to that early decision, Derek, to pit Shia halfway, and it made you nervous on fuel. Araya was 3rd on track, only 1.5 seconds behind these leaders. I went to glance to see if he had made up some time at all, and he was a lap down. That car pitted 3 laps ago. The only thing that makes sense to me is that he knew he didn't have fuel to get to the end.
Yeah, that does. I mean, that calculates, right? He somehow knows he doesn't have the fuel to get there, whether he's being too aggressive, whether he is not drafting the way that maybe Cody Harris is behind Andrew Freenash, or I don't know how to explain that to you any better. I mean, it's almost unheard of. It's more common in road course, what I'm trying to say, that the drivers have different amounts of fuel because of how they drive the car. But in oval, it's almost more normalized because, I mean, we're all doing the same thing in the oval. We're taking different lines, or maybe we're in the gas a little sooner, but it's not typically that drastically different. So I'm confused, honestly. And in a way, like, this is bad news for Michael O'Ryan. Now P9, the first car a lap down, he's now got to be, Evan, winning in at Martinsville. He came into tonight the last place, P8 on the grid, and this is not going to help his odds.
So that is a big, big swing. And again, Lariah came in last in the standings. So that is, again, with the exception of Agnell Phillip, maybe going to be lower due to Agnell's 17th place finish. We'll let you know the points before we go off the air tonight. But you're likely going to be talking about Lariah and Phillip in a must-win situation. And both of them can't win with a week left. Lariah, the defending Martinsville winner. I guess if there's a racetrack I had to go into in a must-win situation, it'd be the one that I won at last year in these Gen 7 cars. But what a story and what a turnaround for Michael Lariah, who has been the best car tonight, right? Led 55 laps. If Andrew Freenash leads every single lap to the end of this race, Derek, it would mean that he would lead 56, I believe. So he would beat him by 1. But you see the stints. Lariah coming in just those 3 laps earlier than Freenash, the difference maker in him having fuel to go to the end or not. And we think the reason he may have been short on fuel is because he was out front leading laps early. Of course, remember, he blitzed through the field, was obviously using a lot more gas to do so. You wonder if Freenash just starts logging laps up front, is he maybe going to burn a little bit too much also?
Yeah, it does make you wonder now, right? It makes you wonder what we don't know. But remember also that Freenash, Harris, and the others pitted after Lariah did on the initial run. So therefore, if you just simple math tells you that they might feel a little bit more comfortable, off to lead. But yeah, the Lariah thing has me a little caught off guard, honestly. It has to be a gas thing. I mean, because the tires are not going to be a big enough difference. Looking at last time by, Lariah he ran a pretty big difference. So 33.2 versus a 34.1. So almost a second faster. But that's not going to hold for all these laps to put him back around. He will unlap himself and be the last car on the lead lap. And he'll have to hope that a caution comes out and levels him off in this race.
To stark contrast, if you had tuned in earlier, you'd see these 3 cars and again think it was a battle for the race lead, but it is Michael Lariah unlapping himself. That's important because as he gets this lap back, would be in position to contest for the race win if there were to be a yellow, because he wouldn't, be stuck a lap down. So that's big. That's not, just nothing there. That Sim Speed Shop Chevy getting back to the lead lap. But again, just feels like all the air has been sucked out of Michael Lariah's night as he's back in P9 and is going to be scrapping for points. But again, likely going to be too far out of reach to do it on points in just 1 week's time. Andrew Freenash up front, gap at 0.3 of a second. I wonder if it's a bit of a cat and mouse game, right? I wonder if both these drivers is Cody really pushing it as hard as he is right now, or is he feeling like I'm just kind of gauging my speed just to keep me close enough to Andrew to save a little bit? Is Andrew not pushing it, right? Is he gauging his speed based on how close the 28 is in the mirror? You never know, but it feels like some gamesmanship inside of these top 2.
Yeah, it really does. And you would almost think that if Andrew Freenash was concerned, maybe was concerned by gas, maybe he'd have tried a little harder to get some draft off of that car that passed him by. But of course, with the tire difference, it'd be hard to hold a draft on a car that's a second a lap faster than you. Well, here we are. We're quickly counting down the lap 7 and quickly setting the grid and the scenarios and the stories for next week that you and I are going to tell, because a lot of the stories will write themselves by the end of this race. As you said, we'll have the points ready before we go off the air. We're going to know where everything stands and who is where and who needs to do what and all the different scenarios we can lay out. But Cody Harris is getting closer and closer and closer as these laps tick down here.
One other thing is, of course, these races are dated in sim to the actual NASCAR Cup Series race weekend. It's not an irrelevant statement, Derek, to note the later we get in the year, the earlier the sun sets. So we're only at about 5:45 in sim time, but you're starting to see the sunset glow on these race cars, and that ties in with your point earlier about track conditions cooling. Track has gone down another 2 degrees to just 90, so adding a little bit of grip, adding some speed into this racetrack. If we were at this racetrack but the in-sim date was set to May, you would not see the sun setting at this time, but that's that unique fall race at Homestead. Look at the 28 car now, a Harris looking to the outside. Slid it off the corner, though, couldn't get there, but the battle for the race win is on.
Yeah, the battle right here is great. Cody Harris now to the bottom to try to get around here and secure his spot in the Final Four. We're talking about his teammate will be here next week, hopefully. Agnell Phillip. That was the closest thing to contact I've seen all night right there, Evan.
He was awfully close that time as he was maybe a half an inch off of the fence. Now Harris on the bottom, going to get really pinched down. Freenosh giving the 28 car no space to unwind that wheel on exit, and it works beautifully in favor of the number 88 car. Some other drivers discussing some battles for position. Sounds like maybe it's Nieto and Austin Coop arguing over position. Remember earlier in this race, Nieto was upset with another driver, so the 2 car may be annoyed with some of the things that are going on elsewhere on the racetrack. But in this battle for the race lead, you look on board there with Cody Harris. Let's keep an eye on all those wheel inputs that we noted earlier. A lot of counter steer. Remember, that's a reversed image because we're looking at him. So anytime that wheel to us is turned to the right, that's him turning left into the corner, which means if he's turning the wheel to our left, that's counter steer. That's him turning the opposite direction in the corner, right? That's a normal turn, not a lot of counter steer that time. Probably one of the cleaner 1 and 2s he's had in the last few laps. And then right there, big pinch of counter steer as it was getting loose off the turn.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon here, Homestead, for these setups to get loose off the corner. You'll see a lot of drivers who aren't skilled at the counter steer, and they'll just snap those cars like off of 4 down to the grass or down to the wall there at the, right there on that bottom of the start finish line. So it's not uncommon to see that snap happen, but Cody, very experienced, a former road to pro driver, is doing everything he can to try and see if he can hold off here and beat Andrew Freenosh. As you said, though, the other developing story, again for the second time tonight, Evan, Sam Nieto is upset with someone. I don't want to say too much, Evan, but if you're the one who's mad at everybody, we have this thing in math called a common denominator. It might be you.
It is a stressful time of the year for Sam Nieto, who came into tonight second in the standings, knowing that he needs every spot he can get. If he wants to play defense, we're going to be looking at some razor-thin margin come Martinsville in a week's time. Battle for the lead. Balloons just a little bit. It's a 0.4 of a second difference. So as we close in on the end of this race, let's go down track level, take in the sights and sounds of Homestead, Miami. This is RaceSpotTV Fan Immersion. Homestead 200, the third to last race this season, and the third to last race in series history of this Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. It was a week ago in the round of 8 opener in which Peter Irons won and locked his way into the Championship 4. Tonight, an opportunity for Cody Harris to do the same. What stands in between him and that golden ticket is the winningest driver in series history, Andrew Freenach, trying his best to go to victory lane. Can he capture his first race win of the season on this big stage?
Yeah, that's the question right now. And this would be a big accomplishment for Cody Harris. Not that he hasn't had big, monumental wins on his resume in RSR, but if you can come out here and you can beat Mr. Four-Time, and you can just race him and use racecraft to get around him and racecraft to beat him to the line, this will be a big moment for Cody Harris. So I think, though, Evan, realistically, what Cody's doing right now, he's lining it up. With only so few laps left, you have 1, maybe 2 shots at this. When you make that move, if you miss, you're going to miss big and you're going to fall back. So there are not that many opportunities to get around Andrew here and complete that pass if you mess up.
And you also wonder, not to take the note away from a super speedway type race, but when we had tandem racing way back when, people would say, do you want to be second or first at a turn 4? I don't think it goes that deep, but if you're Harris, do you really want to pass Freenach with 14 laps to go if you don't think you're going to be able to pull away from him? Do you want him to get another shot at you, or are you just going to go for the pass at all costs? Harris again now looking under Freenach. He tried this move a couple of laps ago. Freenach pinched. Look how close they are in the center of 3 and 4, but the pinch job works again. Instead of Freenach going to the fence, he perked it right on the door of the 28 car, right on the passenger side, took the air away, took the arch away, and it got that 28 upset and was unable to carry the speed off the corner. That has worked for Freenach a couple of times, but eventually, if Harris keeps getting nose-to-nose with you, at some point you got to think he's going to get the upper hand. So does Freenach go for a more defensive line? Does he try to block the 28 from getting underneath him? Or does he make sure the inside's open because he wants to be up top?
At some point, I think Cody Harris is going to have to do the drastic thing and make a move to the outside of it. Not maybe complete the pass, but he needs to show Andrew Freenach that he's versatile, that he is willing to do more than one thing to make this pass work, and make Andrew Freenach think about it. Because right now, Cody Harris is sort of that team, the NFL or college team that's just going to pass on every down. Well, by third or fourth down to the second drive of the game, the defensive coordinator has figured you out. He knows just to get in zone, maybe play some man-to-man, and just cover you. But if you are willing to get out there and make things happen and throw caution to the wind, you can surprise him. But no one does. Nope, that's not needed, because Cody Harris has taken the lead here. And I believe by that taking lead, Evan has now secured most laps led for Michael Laraya.
It was going to be a 1-lap difference if Freenach was able to lead to the end of the race between the total lap lead count for Freenach and that of Michael Laraya in P8. So the fact that Cody Harris leads a lap in this battle is big, because it ensures 1 additional bonus point will go in favor of Michael Laraya. That's just as good as a spot on track. So Laraya might as well be 7th in the running order because he gets an extra point. That's big, and it could have championship implications. For Freenach, on the other hand, does he have a little bit more left to go and counter-strike this 28 car? Can he punch back? Or is Cody Harris, who enjoys right now 4 car length advantage off of turn number 2, is he going to be able to lock himself in and join Peter Irons on the grid in Phoenix?
Yeah, it's getting tense all across the track here, Evan, as moments and minutes and laps are ticking down lap by lap here. Right now, Cody Harris continuing to lead and doing a great job here as the battle for first, and you see there's Cody Harris. That's the same stoic look you get from Cody all night long, Evan. You might get a smile, but some drivers you watch drive, like they get the facial reactions, they bite their lip, they talk to themselves, they get nervous. Cody is just cool as a cucumber.
It's the onboard look with Cody Harris. He's so good at holding the emotions in and just being all business. It's seemingly every time he's off the corner, you get that kind of seesaw action on the steering wheel as he tries to keep the car pointed straight. It goes to show you that that car's not planted, that he's not relaxed. He is still pushing And again, you can't do anything besides give it 110% when the very best driver in series history is on your bumper and is not fading. Peter Irons in third, over 5 seconds off of these leaders. Not likely close enough to benefit if they get together, but if there's big trouble between these two, don't forget about Irons in third. He's already locked in. He doesn't need the win, but he would, I'm sure, enjoy playing spoiler and making life difficult on some of the other championship favorites who are desperate to join him. 1 car length. How aggressive do you dare get if you're Andrew Freenosh, knowing what's on the line?
Well, I mean, in a way, you don't. If you're Andrew Freenosh, you have enough class and respect for the field that you don't want to be in the way, right? You don't want to do something stupid and cause a thing. But also, you're here for one reason. You're here to win. You know, you're not in the playoffs anymore. It's just that. That's what it is. But there's been some other contact around the track, Evan. It's just not just these guys that are going at it. Austin Coop and Sam Nieto finally had a little bit of butting of heads. I'm sure we're going to get to see that in the broadcast here. We'll show us a small box, Evan, while we see the main race happen here. Nieto was pretty vocal to Austin Coop. You're a lapped car. I'd like you to get out of the way. And he said some other words that I can't say live on RaceSpot. But watch this moment here in the small box. And they're going to come through the corner here. And there's not the contact, right? Maybe not right there. There's some more contact that's going to happen. These guys are going to get together, and that's Nieto, I think, finally getting by. But there was some contact before that. Both of them were at about a 30-degree angle in the corner and had to gather up those cars.
Yeah, the pass was clean. There was a lot of frustration, but he finally made the pass, and those were ongoing discussions on the radio between those two, and Austin Coop was very open, said, I'm just going to run my line. Obviously frustrating there for Sam Nieto. I don't know if he feels like he had the pace to get to Grant Davis in fourth. Davis is now 6 seconds ahead of him. He may feel like that is in part due to the time that he lost trying to get around Coop. But Nieto's still in a very good spot running in P5. Remember, that was not for position, that replay on the bottom. There's the second look at it as they got together in the corner and they both had to catch those race cars. Again, that's Nieto getting frustrated, but Austin Coop was just in line up top. And again, it's the playoffs. Stress is at an all-time high, although it may be a little bit calmer if you're Cody Harris than it was 2 laps ago. That gap now at 0.6 of a second. Cody Harris can almost taste it at this juncture. His last race win just 2 weeks ago in Charlotte. He's won a race in each round of the playoffs so far this year. Won the round of 16 finale at Bristol. Won the round of 12 finale in Charlotte. He does not want to wait, though, to the last race of this round. He wants to get the job done here tonight and is looking for the white flag for this race to be official at about 3/4 of a mile.
Well, one last big deep breath for Cody Harris coming around here to take that white flag and to get that moment and secure his way into the round of 4. Right now, big gap of space between him and Freenosh. The only thing Cody Harris is racing is himself, Evan.
Couple of lap cars up the road, not going to be a factor. White flag in the air. This race is official. We're going to go caution-free at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Cody Harris started this race on pole, but the story early on was how he got blitzed by the likes of Lariah and others. He's going to end up only leading the 3rd most laps in this race, but in the end, it's going to be the biggest race win of the season. Number 5 of 2024 for Cody Harris locks him into the championship 4.
A beautiful race by Harris. What a great strategy played out. Great run. And look at that smile. He is locked in, a little bit more stress-free.
Peter Irons and now Cody Harris are the 2 drivers who will fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2024. And it goes back to the conversation we started pre-race, knowing that Agnell Phillip would not likely be in a position to compete in this race. He said, I did not want to have to go into a must-win situation where my teammate was also in that same spot, and he will avoid that. And now that team can focus their resources on supporting Agnell Phillip and their other cars into the race next week, because Cody Harris is a race winner and is headed back to the championship 4 as he looks to have a Cinderella end to his RSR career, looking to claim the last ever series championship here in 2024. And the burnout on the front straightaway is a well-earned celebration. His 5 race wins now ties back with Peter Irons for the second most out of all drivers this season.
Yeah, that's a big stress relief for Cody Harris. As you said, now knows he's locked in. Next week's in Martinsville, it's a fun race. Now you get to go and just have some fun at Martinsville. But look at those burnouts. He has earned this moment. Go and celebrate, Cody. Job well done.
Let's take a look at your RSR full race results tonight from Homestead. Cody Harris gets the win. Again, those playoff cars marked in red. Harris victorious, Freenot second, Irons in third. This didn't matter for the one car, but we'll talk with those top 3 finishers in just a few moments. Grant Davis sneaks in quietly at the end. He ends up 4th as the second highest finishing non-playoff car. Nieto gets 5th when it's all said and done. Cato P6, Gas 7th, Lariah will settle for a P8. That could be disastrous in the end after a strategy call maybe gone wrong. Major 9th at Burke, your top 10.
Moving back into P11, you'll find Austin Coop and Eric Papineau on P12. DeAndre Kane in 13th, 2 laps down. And these other cars has had a rough night, Evan. Jaron Weinmeister, Matt Danson, Mike Maddox, and Agnell Phillip.
Agnell goes for the starting park to get some points. He's going to be in a tough situation. We will talk championship standings in just a few moments. But first, let's talk with tonight's race winner. Cody Harris is victorious tonight at Homestead. He is headed to the Championship 4 to fight for the Full Throttle Cup title this season. And we're with him now. Cody, congratulations. Win number 5 on the year, but I think most certainly the biggest win of the year.
Yeah, this was, I did not have a good race last week. I figured out what my issue was. I must have been something with my graphics card, and I did a clean install of the drivers, and I haven't had a stutter since. And I had been having the occasional stutter. So I think that's what my problem was last week, which caused me to crash pretty much right off the start. And I don't know if I was in quite a must-win situation, but pretty close. So this was really exciting to be able to go back to the Final 4.
Walk us through this race. You guys qualify on pole position, but it's kind of a blitz early for Michael Lariah. I mean, he charges up from 10th to get some laps led, and in the end, he ends up needing to make an additional pit stop. So obviously, we're assuming he did not have fuel to go to the end. He pitted before the halfway point. You made it past that, so just kind of walk us through the strategy and if that fuel was ever a concern for you.
No, I had done testing before, and I ran, some laps on the wall and some laps on the bottom and looked at some telemetry and stuff. And I knew you couldn't make it if you ran very many laps up against the wall. And I saw him charge up through there which I think is why he pitted a lap or 2 before us. And then he went up there again once Drew and I passed him. But I just kind of had lap time in mind, kind of like I did at Bristol. A fuel strategy in mind when I wanted to pit. I actually got a little better fuel. I think it's just riding behind him most of that run. I wish I would have been able to get around him because I think I could have stretched me a little bit more of a comfortable gap so I didn't have to fight Drew so hard again. But that was a lot of fun and good clean racing. I was glad to get the win to get to the Final 4.
Has anything felt different for you since you won that regular season finale in Darlington? And I ask that because in the opening 19 weeks of this season, you guys get 1 win. If you count the last 8 weeks since Darlington, you've gotten 4. You've won 50% of the races. Since then, you've won a race in each round of the playoffs. Did something change, or was it simply you get to the end of the regular season, you get into the postseason, it's go time, and you thrive in those moments?
I had a lot of bad luck the beginning part of the season. When the car count was higher too, I felt like if there was a wreck, my car was around it. But finally got that straightened out. I think I've had the speed, but I've also think I've found something and kind of understand how to use this tire model better than I did. So I think it's a combo of staying out of trouble, but also I've been putting a little bit of time and really trying to understand this tire model.
Next week at Martinsville would look a lot different if you finish second in this race than it does. Instead, you avoid all the drama. How much of this next week goes into Martinsville, if any, and how do you formulate your approach to Phoenix? It's not a racetrack that you're unfamiliar with, but how do you structure these next 2 weeks to compete and get in position to fight for that title?
I think just start doing laps at Phoenix is the best thing to do since Martinsville doesn't really matter. I usually run decent there, just with the braking zones. It drives a bit like a road course to me, with the shifting in the corner and trying to maximize that braking zone. Although I think maybe this year I haven't really driven a lap, but there's potential you might need to save your rear tires a little bit. Kind of like here, I had to save the right rear quite a bit. But yeah, just start doing some laps and hopefully come out on top there. That'd be pretty cool.
If Martinsville goes good for you guys next week, we'll talk to you then. But if not, congratulations on advancing to the Championship 4. Cody, we appreciate you being part of this series, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for putting it on each and every week.
He's your race winner tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway. And Derek, he is one step closer to winning our little bet that we have going on. So that's, I don't know if it's actually any added incentive for him, but I'm starting to sweat. I'll say that much.
I'm grinning ear to ear. I'm like a Cheshire cat over here. I'm stoked to have it happen. But speaking of other people who are stoked, let's continue the interviews here and talk with second place finisher and a driver who's had a great amount of success at Homestead, Andrew Freenosh. Andrew, that was a heck of a run tonight.
Yeah, kick it back from the past there. We were actually up front for once. We're saving tires decently. Still kicking myself for that last run. Man, we want to get one more, and that was as good of a chance as we've had all year. So, man, a lot of fun to be up front. A lot of fun to actually be able to save tires again. I don't know what I figured out there, but we were doing it, and then Cody kind of slapped us back to reality.
So, what is it about this track? Obviously, during your four-peat, this track, I believe, was the finale track for, if not most, at least some of those finale races. What is it about this track that you love? What do you know here the rest of us don't know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I really like it, but I mean, way back when we were having a success, I had a lot more free time. Put in a lot of laps. I mean, just, once if we won that first race going into the final four, just like I was telling Peter, he should probably, and he probably is doing with Phoenix, but we'd run laps here all night for probably 3-4 weeks, or depending on when we locked ourselves in. So just a ton of laps here that kind of translates to almost every car. So just time on this track, and obviously it pays off, and even when you don't practice much, you still have that knowledge from before.
So during the broadcast, Evan and I had a conversation about our Homestead, no longer being the finale track for now. Currently it sits at Phoenix, and both in a sim level and at a real life level. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Would you rather go back to Homestead? Do you enjoy the racing at Phoenix, or how do you feel about the finale race?
So I won't talk about much. I'm not a big fan of NASCAR right now with what they've done over the past few years with stage and whatnot, but let's take that out of the equation. But this track is, I think it should end the season. It's an amazing place. I've been there in real life. Puts on great racing. When the sun sets there, the track is beautiful. I know they want to upgrade a little bit, but it's got its own charm down there. So I think it produces a lot better racing than Phoenix in real life and in the sim. Different places to run, and I guess ever since I started watching NASCAR, 2000s, this is where they ended, and I think it should be here, and I think most people would agree with that.
All right, Andrew, well, listen, 2 races left, and not only this season, but for RSR as a whole, Martinsville, and then, of course, at Phoenix. What are the odds we see an Andrew Freenosh win to close out RSR?
I would say slim. I know Agnell had a bad night tonight, so he might have to win next week, and he'll show up and probably kick everybody's butt. And then the final 4, you have 4 drivers who are going to be amazing there. So I've been saying it. I want to get one. We're going to put in some laps, so definitely try, but I don't have what I used to all those years ago. But we're going to give it our best effort. I'd say maybe a 5% chance if we want to put it in the numbers.
All right, Andrew, well, listen, well, great run tonight. It was great to see you up front, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much. Just want to say thank you to Evan, if I don't talk to you guys again, for everything that you guys do every week broadcasting, all he's done with this league. Everybody I've raced against in this, everybody tonight, all the fans for watching all these years. It's been a blast, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next 2 weeks, but if not, it's been a heck of a ride.
All right, thanks, Andrew. All right, that is Andrew Freenosh. He came in tonight, P2. Let's talk to the driver who came in, P3. That is last week's winner, Peter Irons. Peter, this is a race you talked about. You could relax tonight and didn't have to stress, and you almost came out with back-to-back wins.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I did a lot of practice for we're working on the open setup this week, so I did a lot of testing for that. So that's kind of where I got a lot of laps in, just from doing the open testing, but it turned out to translate pretty well, and I didn't feel like I was that far off. Just made a few mistakes, went to pit road, and they made a mistake at pit road. Like, I don't know what happened, but my gas man did not give me any gas for he just stood there for 5 seconds. So yeah, actually I just watched the replay right now. Hold on.
You got to pay the guy, Peter. You got to pay him, or he doesn't for you.
They're putting my tires on, and this guy's just sitting down. I'm not gonna pay him. He's not gonna do it. Good job. You know what I mean? He's just got the gas can in hand, and he's just sitting on his butt. So
He's waiting for you out the window. Give me $5, please. Just waiting to see how much gas you wanted in the car. But listen, so right now, coming tonight, you were in that catbird seat. You're racing at Phoenix for the title. You know that. Now we know Cody's doing it. How many laps have you already put in at Phoenix?
I would tell you, but I'm not going to tell you, because I know Cody's going to listen, and he's going to be like, well, if he put in this amount, then I'm going to put in that more. And I don't want to do more work than I'm already doing. So I can't tell you, because I got school. I'm busy. So Cody, don't do any more laps than I'm doing, please.
All right. Just Cody, he's done 0. You have to do 1. That's all you got to do, Cody. Is just 1 lap, Cody. Don't worry about it. Well, Peter, last question for tonight. So next week, Martinsville, of course, stress-free for you. You don't have to win, but what's your outlook for Martinsville? Do you enjoy that type of racing? Are you excited to get up there and race bumper to bumper, or are you happy you're done?
No, I'm happy I'm not having to race for
right.
the championship in that one, or getting to the championship. So glad to be in that position, but for me and Cody, we were just talking, it's going to be a race to get Agnell out of the championship 4. We know that he's probably going to have to win to make it. So if we win, then he's going to have to. So that's kind of our goal, because we know how good Agnell is at Phoenix. We see his face cam without those belts at previous championships. We do not want him in the championship 4. So yeah, Cody, Agnell, good luck. We're not going to make it easy for you, I promise. And should be a fun race between us 3.
Wow. Collusion in the works, ladies and gentlemen. Collusion. Well, listen, Peter, great job tonight as always. We'll see you next week in Martinsville.
Thank you. I don't know if Evan's in here or not, but congrats to the new dog. That thing is so cute.
And that new dog is a menace. I've heard stories about that dog that I can't tell you. But that dog's a menace.
The dog was chewing a toy earlier at some point in the race. Maybe it was in the background if you go back and watch.
So cute, man. So cute.
All right, Peter, good job. We'll see you in 1 week.
Thank you.
All right, that is Peter Ironsville. Evan, wow, lots of implications, lots of plans already being made.
Let's talk points, and then we'll kind of break it down from there. So what we knew was that, of course, Irons and Harris would be locked in. They are on the grid for Phoenix. That is happening no matter what. What happens from there on down? Nieto and Cato in, and then Gas first driver out at -8, Burke at -10, and then it is a big jump. I think that's -16 for Agnell Phillip. Not mathematically impossible, but tough. And I think that would then put Lariah at a -20. Yes, there's a world in which 16 and 20 points can be made up, but again, when you're going to have maybe 15 cars, and most of them are going to be playoff drivers getting bonus points, you're going to be lucky to get a 5-point swing. And this is the part that I want to analyze, Derek, right? We talked post-race. You chatted with Cody Harris, his teammates, with Agnell Phillip. He wins this race. That was his goal tonight because he didn't want to have to fight against Agnell next week for the must-win situation. Everybody knows that Agnell's going to bring his best game, and he's one of the very best on the service. If you're his teammate, Cody Harris, as your teammate, you want to try to assist, right, in whatever way you can to get Agnell in. As a driver, though, I would argue Cody Harris's chances of winning the championship go way down if Agnell Phillip qualifies in. That's not a knock on Cody. That's a tip of the cap to Agnell. So Peter laid it on the table. That race means nothing to him, except we feel like Agnell Phillip may need to win the race to get in, and Peter Irons might be putting in more practice for Martinsville than he was planning on.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of an interesting comment that we heard, right there via Peter Irons, that, they're going to work hard to keep Agnell out because they know how good Agnell is at finale night. Well, they're going to work hard at Martinsville next week, Evan. 1 week from tonight. There might be a couple more upset drivers and a little bit more tempers than we saw tonight. It's going to be a very hot and heated night at Martinsville.
We've seen some tempers boil over tonight. The short tracks are known for that. It is the penultimate race in series history. It is the final race of the round of 8. There's no excuse. We want you joining us in 1 week's time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Homestead. On behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing, RaceSpotTV, and for your broadcast team tonight, for our producer Joshua Lee, for Derek Watson, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in as we are down to just one race left before the title decider. We're back next Monday. That's October the 28th at iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway. That race and every race of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series playoffs can be found exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Until next time, good night for Homestead, where it is Cody Harris once again returning to the RSR Championship 4.